We are privileged to have with us Dr. Kevin Wayne Cosby, one of the premier preachers and now college administrators, college presidents in the country. So many of our viewers know who you are, but tell for the one or two people who may not know who Kevin Wayne Cosby is, tell us something about yourself.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me. I cannot put into words how grateful I am for the great work that you're doing and the influence that you're having upon creating excellence and celebration of Black preaching. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. First and foremost, I'm the husband of Barnetta Turner Cosby. We've been married almost 39 years now, and we have 2 adult children and a granddaughter who will turn 2 on my birthday, July the 15th. So she was born on my birthday.
Wow, that's special.
So that is very important to me. You know, being grounded first and foremost in my family. Your family is your corner. If you could consider life or ministry as a boxing match, you box for 3 rounds, then you come back to your corner. So every preacher, every minister needs a corner, and so that's very important to me. And then I'm the pastor of St. Stephen Baptist Church. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. It is located in one of the poorest zip codes in America, but it is a thriving, vibrant, growing church that has a philosophy that says you do not have to belong to St. Stephen Baptist Church for St. Stephen Baptist Church to belong to you. The question we constantly ask ourselves at St. Stephen Church is, if we were to go out of business, would the community miss us? And I am confident that the community would miss us because of our interaction with the community in terms of being a servant institution that seeks to meet needs, both spiritual, empowerment, and social justice advocacy. And then I'm also the president of one of the oldest private Black colleges in America, Simmons College of Kentucky, which was the genesis of Simmons came 4 months after the close of the Civil War, when Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in April 1865. 4 months after that event, the freed people of Kentucky, Baptists, decided that a school was needed if they were going to maximize freedom. And they wanted a school in which they would be in governance. They did not want a school in which the governance was in the hands of whites that would restrict the type of education that they could pursue. So it became, at one time, the only Black college, and it started in 1879. They got their start, but the genesis of it was after the Civil War. And it was founded in 1879, and it is primarily known by the presidency of William J. Simmons, who was president for 10 years. Now, most people don't know who William J. Simmons is. But William J. Simmons, according to Gary Dorian, probably the preeminent ethicist at Union Theological Seminary, who's written prolifically, in fact, a 2-volume book that I highly recommend, one on W.E.B. Du Bois and the Black social gospel tradition. I mean, it is voluminous. And then he just came out with his 2nd book, which it has to be 1,000 pages of great, wonderfully researched material about Dr. King and the civil rights struggle. And James Cone thinks that Gary Dorian he considers him to be the greatest ethicist on the planet. But anyway, in his first volume, the person that he lifts up is William J. Simmons. Henry McNeil Turner, William J. Simmons. And William J. Simmons, who was the president of Simmons College, is basically the founder of the National Baptist Convention. In much of your work, you cite William J. Simmons. His book, Men of Mark, which chronicles
I remember that.
Men of Mark, who chronicles all of the great preachers of the 19th century. So anyone who wants to know anything about preachers in the 19th century, it's William J. Simmons.
Wow.
Prathia Hall came to Louisville to study William J. Simmons because he was a womanist scholar in the 19th century. And she was blown away by him. Ida B. Wells. Ida B. Wells said, if it were not for William J. Simmons, I would not have become a journalist. He gave her her first job. So he was a womanist. Gary Dorian called him one of the preeminent intellectuals of the day, but he died young. He died young, and he said, had he not died young, and had we known our tradition, that's why what you're doing is so important, because you are helping to make mainstream those sources of black preaching and black theology that black people are just oblivious to. So I'm the president of that institution. It's as I said, started in 1879. During its zenith, it was the only black governed college with a law school, medical school, liberal arts college. One of our law school students named Wiley, he sued the city of Louisville because of residential segregation back in 1914. The NAACP, founded in 1909, picked up his case, took it to the Supreme Court, and the Warley versus Buchanan decision of 1917, which ended government-sanctioned segregation initiated by a municipality. The NAACP won that case. That was the first case the NAACP won before the Supreme Court in 1917. So it's back to Simmons. Interestingly enough, Simmons downsized as a university in 1930, casualty of the Depression. And the University of Louisville took over our campus and our programs and our degrees and our fraternities and our sororities. One of the oldest Delta chapters in America is the Delta chapter at the University of Louisville. And that is because it started at Simmons, even though University of Louisville had not integrated until 1951. So we downsized, and from 1931, most people knew Simmons only as a Bible college, when it was a full-fledged university. So I knew about Simmons, august history, because my grandfather attended there in the 20s. He's the organizing pastor of St. Stephen Church, where I pastor. And he graduated there with a degree in mathematics, and then went on and became the first black to graduate at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. So my grandfather integrated Southern Seminary. He was a brilliant scholar, taught New Testament and Greek at Simmons for many years, and mathematics, in fact. So when I became president, my vision was to return Simmons, to introduce Simmons to its unknown self, which is what preaching should always do. I think that sometimes the goal of preaching should not be to give people new information, but just to help them feel confident in what they already know is true, giving them the power to pursue what they already know is right, or to introduce them to their undiscovered selves or their unknown selves. And so I wanted to introduce the city and the nation, that was part of my mission, to our undiscovered self. And we pursued accreditation. We acquired our accreditation, and because once we achieved accreditation and added non-theological degrees like business and sociology and other degrees, we then were eligible for HBCU status, Historical Black College University status, because in order to be an HBCU, you had to be in existence prior to 1964. And you had to be in existence or you never could have closed. And Simmons started in 1879. We downsized. They took everything from us, all of our departments, our law school, and then mandated that with a no-compete clause, that we could not start or teach any other class that is non-theological that would compete with the University of Louisville. So the only thing they left us was with the Bible. Now think about that. They just gave us the Bible, said, we'll give you the Bible. And when God is all you got, God is all you need. So we pursued HBCU status, and we became the 107th designated HBCU. Now to say 107th designated HBCU is different than saying the 107th HBCU. The 107th designated because we are older than many black private colleges, starting in 1879. But we did not get the designation until 2015. So we are in the state of Kentucky, the only private HBCU in the state of Kentucky. And it's interesting, our connection with Indianapolis. There was a black newspaper here. I think it was called the Indiana Freedmen or something like that. And every week they had a Simmons section. Indianapolis Freedmen or something like that. But it was a very prominent black newspaper that existed in the turn of the 20th century. I think it may have gone into business in the 1930s. But it was very prominent. Madam C.J. Walker's personal aide was a Simmons professor. So we've got a Madam C.J. Walker piece at Simmons in our archives. Yeah. So that's basically what I'm doing.